Hey everyone, welcome back to the OrtoTech Garage. My name's Keith. In the garage today with me, I've got this 2023 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro version. This is the iForce Max V6 twin turbo with the hybrid drive system in it. It's kind of rare to see this hybrid drive component. They don't put it in every Tundra. It only comes in as an upgrade or as a factory option, I should say a factory installed with the TRD Pro version. So while we're in here doing a full oil change service for you guys, going to teach you everything start to finish. I also want to show you what some of the hybrid drive components look like. Inverter system, the electric motor, where it's located. It's kind of a unique system on this car. So we're going to kind of throw that in as a little tidbit for you in this video. I hope you enjoy the content. Let's get right after it. The first thing I like to do is reset the maintenance light reminder on here. Let's get inside the interior and I'll show you exactly how to do that. Press this back arrow. You're going to scroll through this until you get to this gear, the settings. We can scroll up or down until we get to vehicle settings. We're going to press and hold OK. That's going to get us into the vehicle settings. We'll scroll down until we get to scheduled maintenance, and we're going to press OK to reset. All right, before we get started here, I want to just go over a couple of the tools that I'm going to use to perform the service on this. Not everything on here is necessary, but I would certainly recommend it. These oil filter pliers here are adjustable. This is good for a spin-on type oil filter like we're going to use today. I've got a 14mm wrench here. I also have a 14mm socket with my torque wrench. This way we can torque the drain plug. I've got a new drain plug gasket, and inside of here is our spin-on oil filter. In addition to that, I've got my Forma funnel. I'll show you what we're going to do with this later. And then my funnel to fill the oil. I want to talk about that a little bit later. And then I've got actually two of these jugs here of oil. We're going to need about 7.7, almost 8 quarts in order to fill this car up. Let's get right into it. Before we get started changing the oil, I like to go through and just check some of the fluids on here. We can take a look at the brake fluid. There is a maximum level on here and a minimum level. Just like to make sure it's in between those and check the color of the brake fluid. This brake fluid is very clean. It's almost a clear fluid right now, so we're good to leave that alone. We've got some washer fluid here we can top up in a minute. On this side over here, I like to check the cooling system on here. There's actually 3 separate coolants on here. All the same coolant really, but there's one here for the engine. There's a separate reservoir here for the intercooler for the turbocharger system, and there's also a third system, cooling system here for the hybrid components. So this is for the inverter system. This vehicle does have 2 air filters, one on either side, so we're going to pop the covers off of these and just inspect them. These are reusable TRD performance air filters in there. If they're dirty, they'll need to be cleaned, dried, and re-oiled. Let's take a look. I'm going to add a little washer fluid. Driver's side. Next thing I want to do is I want to check the oil level and condition before I drain it. See what it looks like. Looks fairly clean. And it's full. So this oil has about 5,000 miles on it, and it's in pretty good condition. I like to leave this dipstick hanging out like this just to remind me that we need to put some oil in here. Let's remove the oil fill cap. Go ahead and wipe around the cap, make sure no debris falls in there before we take it off. I'm going to clean the O-ring here at the top of the cap and the mating surface at the filler neck. And I'm going to set this right here until we're ready to put some oil in it. Guys, it's kind of important when you're working on a hybrid. We don't want to leave the key in the vehicle, so I have this set off to the side over here. And generally, at least 5 feet away from the vehicle is good, but definitely not in the interior of the vehicle. Hybrids can start and stop on their own. This particular vehicle works a little bit different than a Prius does. Just for safety's sake, keep the key fob outside of the vehicle. So we've done a brief underhood inspection, got the oil cap removed, checked the oil level, pulled the dipstick up and left it out at least halfway, topped up our wash fluid, checked the air filters, all those things. We're going to need to put a little bit of coolant in this as well for the engine drive system. It looks like it's just a tad low. We'll top that up when we're finished. But now we're going to get this car up in the air and get a look at it from underneath. We're underneath this Toyota TRD Pro Tundra here, and we've got to remove the TRD aluminum skid plate on here. It has a unique feature on here. We can loosen up a few of these bolts so that it can dangle a little bit, and then just pull out these bolts in the back here, and this thing will slide out nicely. And then when we go to put it back up, we can actually hang it on that, so we're not holding it up trying to get the bolts in. We'll show you that here in just a minute. I also wanted to point out, if you're not familiar with the TRD Pro, it has some unique features on it. It's got these cool sway bar in here. It's been upgraded, and it also has all the Fox shock components on there, the coilovers. So this is pretty cool if you take a look at that. So I've got my little Makita set up here, 3/8 drive and a 12-inch, sorry, not a 12-inch, that would be amazing. I got a 12mm socket, and I'm just going to pop out these middle bolts. And this one in the back corner. And now the rest of these, if I take this back one out, it hangs on this hook here. And these front ones, I just want to loosen them a tiny bit. Okay, and what that's going to allow this to do is hang in these 3 locations, 1, 2, and 3 in this back corner. And I should be able to wiggle this thing out around these slotted hooks and then drop this out in one piece. Let's try it. Okay, looks like our insulation is falling out. We'll tuck this back in here. Okay, so I've got some oil filter pliers here. I'm going to use these to take this off. This is a conventional style spin-on oil filter, so this should come off pretty easily. It's very small in this particular vehicle. And I also have here my Forma funnel. This is one of my good friends. Keep me from making a mess inside of people's frame rails and things. When I show you up in here, you're going to see that there's a little drain catch underneath the oil filter to collect the oil and pour it straight down. But unfortunately, Toyota for some reason didn't think far enough ahead. It drips right on the frame instead of outside the frame. So you can either put a hose on it if you have one, or I just like to use something like this. This will direct it out past the frame and into my drain bucket. Let me show you. All right, we're going to get up in here and we're going to loosen this oil filter. And before we take it off too far, I'm going to take my Forma funnel. This is flexible. I'm going to put it in here, and I just want to redirect this oil into my pan. And then we can take the filter off, let it drain completely. See it coming out the hole there? Now, if we didn't have this Forma funnel under here, it'd be running right into the frame, making a mess. You can see the amount of oil that's coming out of here. That's a hell of a lot of cleanup if you're not careful. And there's our filter. We're going to let that drain for a minute here. Then we're going to clean off the surfaces. And I want to make sure I wipe this flange down where the O-ring seats. And then I'm going to clean out this little bucket that collects the oil and directs it out this drain hole. And once we've got this all cleaned out and it's done dripping, then we can take this green Forma funnel out and we're ready to install our filter. There you go. Now, just in case this decides to drip, drop or two, I'll leave my rag up there until we get a new filter on. So if you guys are using the original equipment Toyota filter. It comes with a little plastic cover on it, and the O-ring comes pre-oiled. If you're doing this oil change with some aftermarket filter, you're going to want to make sure you put a bead of oil on here. And a lot of people ask me, do I need to fill the oil filter? It's really not necessarily, especially when you're installing it in the horizontal position. Okay, if I was installing it up, yes, I'd want to fill the filter. Why not? It doesn't hurt any. Putting it in sideways, I'm just going to make a mess. Most of the oil is going to spill back out. I'm not really doing any giant favors here. I know a lot of you like to say, well, you know, the engine is not protected, it's not lubricated. It's literally, you know, a half a second to a second and a half at most that this thing is going to run without this much oil in it. This systems have plenty of pressure in here to fill this thing up quickly. And you've got plenty of oil still in the engine. There's oil in all the bearing caps and surfaces, so you're not running this engine dry by any means. If you had a brand new engine that you were assembling, obviously you'd want to put assembly lube everywhere, and you probably want to prime your engine. This vehicle's already got oil and miles on it. We're going to be fine here without pre-filling this. Just want to snug that up by hand. And again, I just want to clean this out one more time, make sure nothing's dripping on the frame. When the client gets home, we don't want there to be any oil spots in their driveway, in their garage. We can't have any oil residual left over anywhere, and that's why we use that green Forma funnel, so we don't have to worry about that. All right, so now that we've got our oil filter secured back in place, we've cleaned out the little collection bucket and the drain tube, make sure there's nothing on the frame. We're ready to move over here and drain the engine oil. We've got a 14mm wrench we're using here on this drain plug bolt, and we're just gonna pop this out. Should come out nice and easy by hand. I'm gonna raise this oil drain up, and I wanna pop this out so it lands in my bucket without making a mess. So while my oil is draining, I want to make sure I let that sit for long enough to completely evacuate the oil pan of all the oil that's in it. And I'm going to take this opportunity to check my tire pressures. I want you to take a look up here and notice that on the oil pan, the gasket for the oil drain plug is still stuck to the pan. We're gonna have to pop that off and then replace it here with this new gasket I've got. I usually just like to take a screwdriver or anything and just give it a little pop, and off she comes. You'll notice here there's no more oil dripping out of this pan. We've let it drain plenty long enough. Generally a slow drip would be fine. We've got our new drain plug gasket, or drain plug. I've wiped all the mating surfaces off with a rag. Put the new gasket on the drain plug, and then we're going to put this in. Should run up nice by hand. I'm going to snug it just a little bit with the wrench, and we'll torque it with the torque wrench. All right, so now I've got my torque wrench here. I set it to 30 foot-pounds. This is a 3/8 drive torque wrench, and I've got a 14mm socket on it. We'll go ahead and torque this up. All right, pretty good. Just want to make a note here of the oil filter. The torque spec on it is 13 foot-pounds. If you're going to use a torque wrench on it, please torque it to 13 foot-pounds on this particular vehicle. If not, snug it tight by hand. Don't over-tighten the oil filter. It's really not necessary. So we don't want it to fall off, and we don't want it to be over-tight. All right, I want to give you a little peek underneath this vehicle. Not everybody gets to see a hybrid. First thing I want to point out here is that this thing has electric power steering. There's no power steering fluid in here that needs to be serviced. It's got a giant electric motor on it that connects to the steering rack, and this is all electronic. Underneath here, you're going to see also an electric air conditioning compressor. There's no pulley, no belt to drive the air conditioning compressor. It's all electronic. There is a belt under here we can inspect. All it drives is the water pump, and it looks pretty good. If we move back a little further, I can show you where the electric motor for the hybrid drive system sits in between the engine and the transmission. Here's our engine oil pan, here's our transmission oil pan, and then right in between there's another little pan here, and this is where the electric motor resides in this vehicle. So in between here And here in the bell housing is the electric drive assembly. And I want to just give you guys a quick view of the underneath of this Tundra TRD Pro. We're walking past the transmission, the transfer case, there's the fuel tank, aluminum drive shaft. We're coming all the way back to the rear end where we've got the rear differential assembly. And we've got, of course, some more of these TRD Fox shocks with the reservoirs on them. Another one on this side. There you are. All right, it's time to put this gigantic, heavy TRD cover back underneath the engine. I wanted to show you here, again, those slots. It might be easier to see now that it's out of the car, how they hook on. So the bolt head can fit through here, and then the shaft of the bolt will slide up and over, and that's going to help hold this up in the air while we get our bolts gathered together and tighten everything up. And I'll show you how it goes. Now, I'd imagine if you're doing this on your back, it's going to present quite a challenge for you because you have to hook the back hook in the hole over here before you slide this all the way towards the back of the car and engage the slots that go side to side. Okay, but once you've got them in, you've got the hook installed in the back, and then you've got these two bolts slid over in the front. It will hang here by itself until we get the remaining bolts in to secure everything. We get all these bolts started by hand, a couple of turns. We don't want to cross thread any of this. These are threaded right into the frame. If you destroy the threads, it's not easy to fix. So there's a lot of movement in this cover, side to side, front to back. Just wiggle it around until you get everything in. And if you're doing this on the ground on your back, this might be a little challenging for you. You might have to just kind of lay under it completely and push it up off your chest a little bit to get this thing in place where you want it. But once it's hung, like I said, it's not too bad to work with. Just make sure you've got all these bolts started by hand, a couple of turns, and then you're ready to snug everything up, okay? Now, if you're using a power tool like I am, please don't over tighten these. They have to come in and out a lot over the lifespan of this vehicle. This has to come off every single time an oil change is done on it, and it's going to be a lot of oil changes. Toyotas are supposed to last a few 100,000 miles pretty easily. So just be extra careful. If you need to use a torque wrench on these bolts, please do that. Now that everything's tidied up underneath the vehicle, got our drain plug secure, torqued down, oil filters on, covers on. We're ready to put some oil in this thing. I've got set out here some Mobil 10 W20. That's what this vehicle calls for. There are a lot of choices for oil. I don't want to get in an oil debate with anybody. Just want to let you guys know that I've seen this product in action for decades, and I like the way it works when we take engines apart with super high mileage. They always look brand new on the interior. The proof is in the pudding for me. I believe in a product that I can see work over many decades. So when my clients come in for a premium synthetic oil change, I usually recommend to use some Mobil 1. Now, there's plenty of great options out there. Go ahead and use some Valvoline, Castrol, Pennzoil. I don't care, as long as you're changing your oil frequently. This particular vehicle, I recommend every 5,000 miles. Don't listen to the manufacturers. They're not here to make sure your engine lasts for 350,000 miles. They want to sell you a new car in about 60. I want to show you my funnel we're using. If you watched my video on the Lexus LC500 oil change, I mentioned this in there. This is a great little product by Lyle Tool. Again, I'm not sponsored by them. Don't care what you buy. Not any profit for me. But this has a threaded cap with an O-ring on it, a seal. This goes down inside the filler neck, tightens up against there, and then this sits inside here and makes a pretty tight seal. So we can fill this oil up. Even if it backs up into this funnel, it's not going to spill on top of the engine. And I'm a big believer in keeping our work area neat and tidy. We don't want to make a mess of this engine. So this is a great tool to have. We'll thread it right in here. Snug it up just a little bit. And then we're going to stuff this in here and push it down just a tad. It's going to stay nice and tight. We can go ahead and pour this oil. This Mobile One jug, I think I mentioned this once before, but it has the wide mouth spout on these bottles, and they will pour extremely fast. So I would ask you just to pay extra attention when you're pouring these. This oil is going to come out quick. That's another reason you want to use a product like this, especially I'm on my tippy toes right now. I don't know if you can see. This is a pretty high truck, and reaching over this thing is a little bit of a chore without a step stool. So I want to make sure that I'm in control of this oil and where it's going. So I'm just going to come right in here, and we'll pour it into that funnel. We'll let it do its job. The capacity on this vehicle is 7.7 quarts with the filter. These Mobile One oil jugs each hold 5 US quarts. So we're going to need this entire jug plus almost 3 of the next jug. One more time. We'll have to check this about halfway through. We don't want to overfill this. So just under 8 quarts would be perfect. So if you're unaware, there's some lines on here. Right now we've got almost 2 quarts in there. I'm probably going to put another quart or so. You guys can always add some oil later. Don't overfill it. So we're going to go here, leave about, we can, 2.2 quarts in here. I feel pretty good about that. Just above the 2 quart mark here. A little bit above that. And then we're going to run it, check the oil, and see what the level looks like. Now we'll take this out, flip it up quick, make sure we don't drip any oil. Take that off, and then we're going to put this cap back on. Snug that up, and we're ready to run this. Pull this out, we'll give it a wipe down. This oil is going to be very clean. It's always hard to read on the dipstick, especially when you've got a car with low mileage. You're doing a service on it and they're taking care of it, and we changed the oil with some nice fresh quality oil. You pull the stick out, it's hard to even read it sometimes. Looks like we are right there, just a hair above the fill line, the full line I should say. And once we run this and get a little oil in that filter, it should be perfect. I like to make sure we're cleaning this O-ring at the top of the dipstick too. Wipe it off, don't let it build up with crust and dirt. And it's good to have just a dab of maybe oil on there too once in a while, just to keep it lubricated. It'll go in and out of the dipstick tube a lot nicer. So we're going to grab our key that we had sitting on the shelf over there, and we'll fire this up, let it run for about 30 seconds. We'll shut it off, check the oil level, make sure it's perfect. Let that oil drain down into the pan here for another 30-45 seconds. We'll double check the level, and we'll top up this coolant, and this oil change is basically ready to go. All right, we're looking good. With just a hair below the maximum level. Just a hair, so we're spot on. Well, there you have it, everyone. Very simple process here. I hope you understood all the steps here. There's nothing to be intimidated about working on a hybrid vehicle, especially something as simple as an oil change. I hope you saw here that this doesn't look any different than your conventional engine drive system, pure gasoline engine, whatever you're used to working on. There are some extra components shoved under the hood, that inverter I showed you in the back corner, and then the motor underneath. Stay away from those big fat orange wires. Those are all the high voltage wires. You'd have to be really special to get your fingers in there and shock yourself. It's almost impossible. So just stay away from those components that are labeled with the bright orange. Do your oil change like you normally would. Keep your key outside the vehicle just for extra safety measure there, and you guys are going to be doing just fine changing your own oil. If you guys are enjoying this type of content here, please let us know in the comments below. We really appreciate you following along with us. We're making this content for you guys, so if you're enjoying it, please like and subscribe, honk that button so you get some notifications. We're making new videos every week. Thursdays will be like clockwork, and then we're going to try to add at least 1 or 2 more videos during the week as well, whenever we have time. So appreciate you sticking with us. Watch this video we got for you right here, and we'll see you in the next video. And then if we move back a little further, ouch, you get me to hit my head? Let's do that again. Kill it.